But that for me, that's how that plays. But we get the moment of Zora being killed, and then it builds up to the moment of Leon.
Yeah. Harrison Ford just kind of recovers from the whole fucking thing, and then Leon comes and stomps his ass all up and down the street.
So Brian James is a large man.
Yeah.
I mean, Harrison Ford's a big guy. He's a tall guy. He's beefy, but Brian James is a mountain of a man.
Right.
And when he gets a hold of Harrison Ford and starts shaking him like a small child or just smacking the shit out of him, it is so believable. You're like, yeah, that's what would happen. If Brian James gets a hold of you, this is what's happening. You're just getting your ass whooped, right?
Right.
And again, the childlike nature of the Brian James character and this young character, how old am I? How long do I have to live? Like where he's trying to get answers from Harrison Ford on these questions that are the childlike questions, That, of course, then builds up to wake up, time to die. Yeah, great scene between the two of them. And Brian James is killing it.
He says, how long do I have to live? He says 4 years. He goes, that's longer than you.
Yeah, longer than you. Yeah. Which builds up to the moment that a lot of people bump on in their first watching, which is that then Rachel shows up and shoots Leon. And everybody's like, well, where did she come from? Why did she show up? And you have to go, remember, he called her, told her where he was, he invited her to come down. So her showing up is not random. It is playing out the scenes in the order in which they should happen. But it, again, to go with your point, the first time he gets he shoots somebody in the back. And then the first time he gets like a straight up fight, he just gets his ass whooped.
Yeah. But I want to go back to Rachel showing up. It serves the narrative. It serves the story because there is an attraction between the two. And even though she takes a principled stance, like, that's not my kind of place, and you really hurt me the last time I see you, and I'm not going to go there, but she still can't stay away from it. And she still goes and shows up. And so that's a strong connection. And she ends up saving his life. And that kind of, people are like, their romance happened pretty fast. First of all, it's Harrison Ford and Sean Young in the peak of their prettiness and sexiness. And second of all, they're fucking lonely, extremely lonely.
Desperately lonely people.
Desperately lonely people. And third of all, she saves his fucking life. If somebody blows somebody's head off for me, I'm probably going to be a little bit more, we'll probably accelerate a little bit faster. But that was a nice moment. Then they go back to the apartment, and this is his
apartment that's on like the 1,973rd floor. When he goes out on the balcony, he's like infinity from the ground.
I find his apartment fascinating because it's just a big shadow with lumps in it that he kind of crawls around on. You can't really make out. You're like, wait, what is that? It's just like weird shapes. And every now and then he'll pull a Johnny Walker Black bottle out of it. and he's fucking an alcoholic, like 100%. And they even have a moment where he passes out while she's in the house doing that.
Well, he did just get his ass kicked.
Yeah, he did get his ass kicked. And she plays the piano.
And just before that, he's like in the bathroom, like spitting blood in the sink and like trying to, clean up his injuries. Yeah. So if you get your ass kicked and then you drink a bunch of vodka, you're probably going to pass out.
Let me tell you why I love Harrison Ford. This is post Indiana Jones when he did this movie, right?
Yeah.
How many Sylvester Stallones, Arnold Schwarzeneggers, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagals would play a role like this, right? Would play it where you're completely vulnerable. You don't look cool. When you're kissing the girl, it's like you're awkward as if you're kissing for the first time because she's a virgin. He's a virgin, right? And it's like this. I know you don't subscribe to that, but that's what I'm sticking with this movie. Yeah. That's what made this movie that's what really clicked this movie for me.
Well, I've got the killer counter argument, but I'll wait till the end.
Okay. Yeah. You're waiting till the very end, like boom, bye, click, and then you're out. But she remembers that she knows how to play the piano. She plays the piano. They have this nice moment. Now, this love scene does not work for me. And it's it's the roughest part of the movie that kind of throws me off.
Yeah.
The two weakest parts of the movie is when he does the voice, when he doesn't need to do the voice. I don't understand that choice. And two, this really...
Say the word. It's a little rapey.
It's rapey.
Yeah.
It's rapey. And I don't know why. Like, how does that serve? Where is it serving the story?
Okay. I know the way in which it serves the story. It is a very classic noir moment that the detective can tell that the woman is attracted to him, but she's not going to give in. So he has to kind of force the issue, right? That's very noir. You see it over and over again in old black and white detective movies and that kind of stuff. It's a very noir idea.
Yeah.
That he has to kind of force her to kiss him the first time to get past her defenses.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea being that he's the bad boy, she's the good girl. So you have to get past her good girl barriers to allow her to free herself up to do the thing that you want her to do. Right.
Right.
I know that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But if we're playing it that Rachel is basically a child.
Right.
In a woman's body.
Right.
And he's physically forcing himself on her. Obviously he doesn't knock her down and climb on top of her, but pushes her up against the wall, makes her say, physically intimidates her, makes her say, I want you to kiss me, and then kisses her. It comes across very different to a modern audience. You watch that now and you're like, oh, dude, stop.
I mean, look, I think I've read reviews back then where they were like, this is rough.
Yeah.
But so in those famous noir moments, those famous noir scenes, you believe that they are like want each other so bad, and the reason that she's holding off is she's like, I can't, like society and
because it's the 50s and we have these
it's the
moral
50s and I don't I can't I got to worry about my reputation and like this, but I want to so bad, but I can and I want to, and that makes that kind of has that hot tension. She's like, I'm looking at her, I'm like, she doesn't want to. She's terrified. She's scared.
She's terrified. And that's the problem with the scene. So that's the thing with the 50s version, the 40s, 50s black and white noir movie version of this, is the actress would play it as she is seething with hunger that she is holding in restraint. All he's trying to do is he's trying to get her to loosen that restraint just a little bit and let her hunger out. In this scene, she does not play like she's hungry. She plays like she's terrified. And what he's trying to get her to do is get past her fear. And that feels very different. It feels very different.
Yeah. And then the kissing is so awkward. Like he like
like trying to stick her whole head in his mouth.
And that's another thing. Like he's a fucking replicant. He's never kissed before. He's trying to swallow her face and like do the whole thing like that. Now we get to Sebastian, who's one of my favorite characters. Now I want to talk about, for me, the three most powerful visual scenes is like that opening scene when you're flying and you're seeing all the fire bursts. When he's at the Tyrell Corporation for the first time and they lower the blinds and that fantastic, like that Van Gogh score. This is probably, it's for sure in my top 5 favorite scores of all time.
It's a beautiful score.
It's a beautiful score, and it's the most I most listened to score since then. But when the thing's going down and it's like blocking the sun and it's so beautiful. But when they get to Sebastian's place and they're taking the elevator in that old Hollywood building, I can't remember the name of it, but that's an actual building.
Oh yeah, it's a famous Hollywood hotel, right? Or apartment building.
Yeah, it used to be something, I can't remember, but they shoot a lot of stuff in it.
They shoot a lot of movies there.
And the lights in this they're always moving and pulsing and it's just, and they're taking the elevator all the way up and it's going through, but I jumped ahead. So Pris shows up and she like positions herself in the garbage.
Yep. Pris, who is another one of the replicants.
Yeah.
So far we know that there's 5. We've learned that Rachel is one of them. And now we have killed Zora and Leon. So we know there are 2 left. And we've met Roy Batty because he's had interactions with Leon. And now we meet Pris. And we've seen her picture. Bryant showed the picture of her, said she was a pleasure model, basically like a robot hooker for the colony workers, which again, super creepy. These are humans. You can't just turn them into prostitutes against their will, but we're doing it. So she shows up, and like you said, she hides to make him think she's a homeless person. Right? So she climbs out of the garbage, and she's like, I'm hungry, and I'm cold, and I need help, and clearly understands that this is another very lonely man, that she's a beautiful woman. This is Daryl Hannah, that he's going to be intrigued by her, and he is, and he takes her up to his apartment.
It's a great physical performance when she like sees him and she busts out and she runs and breaks the window
falls.
in his car.
Yeah.
You know, like her hand. That should have tipped him off right there. She ran through his car window. Yeah. She ran through his car window and then popped back up and was like, and then she stayed there. And she was like, you know, I'm scared or whatever. You're going to hurt me. And he's like, I'm not going to hurt you. And
I just saw you wreck my car with your fist. I'm not starting no shit.
Yeah. I heard you say this earlier, and I feel the same way. I fucking love Sebastian.
Sebastian
and
is
his
great.
whole thing going on in that house is so fucking bizarre,
It's so weird.
but it's
The
so
toys,
interesting.
yeah.
The toys when they come in, and you know, he says, "I'm not lonely. I make my friends."
Yeah,
And they go in there,
and he's got all these little, I guess they're little replicant dolls because they're alive. But they're like little things that are like toy looking things. It's super creepy. It's super creepy. Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, fellas." They
Home again, jiggity jig. Good evening,
home
JF.
again, jiggity jig. Yeah. And then the guy runs into the wall. And the thing is in the later scene, that same guy runs into the wall again. And so it's like, oh, does Sebastian think this is funny? And then he programs.
He thinks it's funny.
Yeah. And it's
cute.
like, but then when you see the guy's face and he has that thing in his mouth, he's like, oh, and he's like shaking. It's so weird. And he's so terrified. And his face is human. And you're like, what is he terrified of? Is he terrified of his buddy Sebastian?
No, it's later when
No, he's terrified for Sebastian later because
he's terrified for Sebastian.
Yes, for Sebastian because Pris and all that. But that whole apartment and the toys and the visually, it's so mysterious and it pulls you in.
Yep. And then we get the amazing scene between the actor who plays JF Sebastian, very famous character actor, was also did that long run on the comedy with "Hi, I'm Larry, and this is my brother Daryl. This is my other brother Daryl."
William Sanderson.
Yeah, very very famous character actor. Has done a ton of TV work, a ton of movie work, and this I think is one of his best parts because he plays it so like the choices he makes are like, you know, you were talking about how Brian James made some really interesting choices in that opening scene where he's not playing the end of the scene. He's going through the journey of the scene before he gets to the end. I think Sebastian's doing the same thing here. I mean, he starts out, he's intrigued by Pris. Then that Roy shows up and he knows what Roy is. He knows what he is, but he's not sure what's happening. And so he's waiting to see. He's waiting to see, like, what are they doing here? What's going to happen? And he's a little scared, but he's not terrified yet, right? Because he's still intrigued by it. He's still intrigued by them being here. And as the scene develops, he's more and more realizes that he's in big trouble. And the choices that Rutger Hauer makes try to disarm him, to be funny, like try to get him to relax, right? It's such a fantastic interplay between the three actors in the scene. And it's just these three actors bouncing off of each other. That's all the scene is. And it's so well done. And all three of them are making such interesting choices that eventually leads to Sebastian agreeing to take them to Tyrell.
To second what you were saying earlier, is that I think Sebastian is the purest character in this dark, twisted world. There's something so kind and sweet to him.
Yep.
And he's a geneticist. He's a brilliant guy. So I think you're right. Like when he sees Roy, he knows right away that something is amiss. And there's a great moment when Roy kisses Pris and he turns his head because it's a little bit of like, it kind of hurts a little bit because maybe he thought that he could have something with her, right? And the way that they pull him in and they're charming and it's so sinister and it's so full of tension because you know what these people are capable of and he knows what they're capable of. He says, I know, I worked on you. Your next is 6. And it's such a compelling scene. And when she puts her legs around him and pulls him in, and he's basically saying, you need to get us into Tyrell's operation. She goes, you're our best, goodest friend,
Our best
Sebastian.
and only friend.
Our best and only friend, Sebastian.
Yeah, when he's like asking him questions, he goes, don't know much about biomechanics, Roy. Wish you did. But yeah, he's so honest in the scene, and he knows he's in trouble. He knows this is not a good thing that these people are, but I think he genuinely does want to help them if he can. You know, I think there is a part of him that wishes he could help. Obviously, some of that is attraction for Pris. You know, I mean, it is 1980s Daryl Hannah. I get it, but I think there is also a part of him that genuinely, if he could make everything okay for them, he would.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I certainly think so. When they go to the Tyrell Corporation and Roy Batty figures out the chess situation, I've read a lot of criticism about, wait a minute, they're like, because they get halfway up to the top, Roy Batty gives him the chest moves that then puts Tyrell in the check, and he says, what is this? And he gets out of bed and he says, what is it this hour? But when he talks about chess, then he's like, let's go. And he goes and checks, and he's like, nonsense. And he does the move, and he's like, get up here. We need to talk about this.
What is this, Sebastian? Milk and cookies kept you up late?
So people are like, wait a minute. Like, he wouldn't let them up at this time of night with the chess and everything. And it's like, no, I think this is a great setup. And I think this really speaks to Tyrell, his character. He's an egomaniac. You know, the fact that he is getting bested in chess, and I'm a chess guy. I love chess. And if a buddy of mine called me and was like, hey, you know, I got this thing, I would be like, I'm getting out of fucking bed. Let's see if this is, you know, like I'm coming out and we're gonna work this out. So
how come we never played chess?
It never came up. I did.
Yeah,
you like chess?
Yeah.
Me and Steven played on.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think that, like every other character in the movie, literally every character in the movie is desperately alone, desperately lonely. Tyrell doesn't have a family. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have kids. He has his work, right? They say he has a niece, but we never see that person, or the sibling that supposedly that would be their parents. He's alone. He's in this giant building. He's in this giant bed when he gets called, in this fabulously huge bedroom, but he's alone. And so I think all of the characters in this movie are coming from a place of deep loneliness. And for Tyrell, it is his intellectual pursuits that have taken the place of family for him, that have taken the place of the other things. And so when Sebastian shows up with an intellectual challenge, that's the thing that will get Tyrell out of bed. It's an intellectual challenge. He gets that. Like, I think you're exactly right. He's got an ego about his intellect.
And there is a bit of a God complex. And that's what
he's making literal humans.
He's literally making humans. And that's what's interesting is when he sees Roy Batty, he gets the score right away. He knows what's immediate.
He knows what's up.
He has a slight pause as he's straightening his thing, and then he straightens up his robe and ties his knot, and then they come in.
I mean, if you're the head of engineering at Toyota and a Tacoma shows up, you know what a Tacoma is.
Yeah, you do.
It's like, oh, I recognize the model you are, Roy, immediately, right?
And Sebastian's like, I brought friends. Like, he's trying to make it better, you know, and he's like, what did you do? Now, my question to you is, does Tyrell have the power to fix Roy Batty's problem?
I don't think he does, and I think, and I once had this scene memorized. I probably have forgotten it, unfortunately, but one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is where Roy and Tyrell are shooting back and forth. Like, what about aggressive protein that blocks the operating cells? You know, gives rise to a cancer, and like they're going through the whole thing. I think Tyrell's being honest with him. I think Tyrell's telling him the truth. Like, we built you to break after 5 years. Anything that we do to try to fix that means starting over from scratch. Like, could I make a version of Roy Batty that doesn't die after 5 years? Of course I could, but I'm starting from scratch at that point. I'm not fixing you. And what Roy wants is, Roy doesn't want another version of him that lives longer. He wants him to live longer. He wants Pris to live longer. And so when Tyrell is saying, look, we built you as best as we could, and the candle that burns twice as brightly burns half as long, you know, that whole speech he gives him, I think he's being honest with him. Revel in your time.
You're magnificent. I've done questionable things.
Also extraordinary things.
Why doesn't he not lie to him? Say, sure, yeah, we'll fix you right up. Come over here.
I think it's clear to Tyrell that Roy has done enough research, because Roy's asking the right questions. Like he's asking scientific questions. He's asking about proteins and operating cells and genetics and all that stuff. So Tyrell's seeing that and he's going, if I bullshit this guy, he will immediately know that I bullshitted it.
Well, here's the thing. What's he gonna do if he bullshits him? Crush his head into the wallum?
I think he was hoping that
he wouldn't crush his head.
He was hoping that if he told him the truth, that would keep him from doing what
because he knew what Roy was longing for.
Yeah.
And that to know what his purpose was, to know like he's a father figure to him, to know. And he almost wants absolution because he confesses to his father, I've done bad things. And he's like, but you've done extraordinary things. You know, you're magnificent. And
revel in your time.
Yeah, revel in your time.
I love that line. Yeah.
But what I love is like Roy Batty is pissed off, like a pissed off 3-year-old, and he pitches a tantrum. Yep. You know, it's like, you know, there's times like if you see a 2-year-old mad as fuck, you're like, this 2-year-old would beat me to death if it had the power.
If that 2-year-old was 200 pounds, he would just kill me. He would
kill him. And so he's like, I want to live. And then so he just smashes his head, just cracks his fucking
again, one of my
skull.
favorite lines, I want more life, fucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic scene. Again, there's a bunch of these like 3-handed scenes in this movie. You know, the Sebastian and Roy and Pris scene is a beautiful, beautiful scene. The Sebastian and Roy and Tyrell scene, beautiful scene. Deckard and Gaff and Bryant's scene at the beginning is a great three-hander. You know, like there's a bunch of these scenes. There's some nice, you know, one-on-one scenes, but there's a bunch of these like three character scenes in this that are some of my favorite 3 character scenes. And I think they are the model on how you write a scene with 3 characters. Because a lot of people don't know how to do that. A lot of people are good at writing dialogue when 2 people are just talking to each other. And the minute a third person shows up, their sense of dialogue, their sense of the rhythm of a scene kind of starts to fall apart. This script and this direction and these actors get how to do a 3-hander scene. They really get it.
Have you seen Barbie yet?
I have not.
Joseph, have you seen Barbie?
He's playing with a Barbie right now.
Yes, I have.
Do you think, does Pris remind you of Weird Barbie?
Evil Barbie? Oh, yeah. No, Pris is the model for evil Barbie.
Well, no,
sure.
There's a character in Barbie, the movie Barbie, and they call her the Weird Barbie. And she does like she has the hair. I think they modeled her off Pris. Like she does the acrobat shit. She does all the acrobat and all that stuff. And when Deckard shows up, and how great is that when he shows up and she's like there's all those pictures of her like looking and hearing and seeing him and they doing that. Yep. And then she starts doing all this acrobatic shit. And again, kicks Deckard's fucking ass throughout the whole thing. He has that one moment where he shoots her in the air. He gets lucky. Like if she wasn't toying with him, he'd be a dead replicant.
Yep. And then she does her death scene, which she later repeats in Kill Bill.
Kill Bill. Yeah.
As we talked about when we talked about Kill Bill.
Right.
Yep.
And I know Tarantino's a fan of Blade Runner. How could you not be?
He is. Tarantino loves movies. Blade Runner is one of the greatest movies ever.
One of the greatest movies ever made.
Of course he's going to be a fan of it.
And so when she dies in Kill Bill, he does that throwback to Blade Runner, which is fucking awesome. What I saw that is like a person, a 3-year-old clinging to life, clinging to live and like spazzing the fuck out.
Well, and she's angry. She's angry that she got shot. She's angry that she's going to die. This whole thing is about Roy and Pris trying to live longer. And now she just lost the rest of her life and she knows it and she's furious about it.
Right.
And she's like you said, she's throwing a tantrum on the ground there because she lost the one thing she was trying to save. Yeah.
And Roy shows up and you know what, Ty? He's not happy.
No,
he is not happy about this stuff.
That the scene where he goes to Pris and he puts her blood on his mouth and he says her name and he looks genuinely devastated by her death. That's the scene when you're watching the movie like, oh, Deckard's in trouble.
Yeah.
This guy's gonna fuck him up. Yeah. And he does. Yep.
And it is moving when he stands over her and he's connecting to these emotions that he's feeling, these strong emotions, and he kisses her and her makeup's on his face and they have this, and you realize they have like they are their only friends and their only family that they've ever known.
Yep.
And these, like, what a tragic life they've had. Like, you know, if you're fully human, the only difference is you were made by another man or whatever. But if you're fully human and you've had a life like this, where, oh, by the way, all your memories are not your memories, and you're going to die in 4 years, and we are going to murder all of your friends in front of you. It's really tragic. And yes, he's going to be fucking mad. He's going to be pissed off. They have those emotions in him.
Yep. He doesn't want Deckard to just be dead. He wants to hurt him. He wants to make him suffer as he's suffering. You know, because there's plenty of times when Roy could just kill him, and he chooses not to. You know, when he grabs his hand and yanks it out through the hole in the wall and breaks his fingers, and then gives him his gun back. Like, you can have this; it won't matter.
Yeah,
like, you go ahead and hang on to this. It won't. You're not going to be able to do shit with it. But
and when he rams his head through the wall,
yep.
he's just like and then he's just fucking with him.
Yep. Yeah, and when Deckard hits him with the pipe, and Roy goes, "That's the spirit." Like he's like, "Good job, you hit me with the pipe. It didn't do shit. Like I don't give a fuck. But it's good that you're fighting back."
But I want you to, I want to feel you wanting to live so I can crush it. I can crush it out of you.
I think that is exactly what he's saying. Is I want you to be desperate to live so that when I take it from you, it hurts even more.
And they've been setting up, you know, even when you first see him in the phone booth, that like rigor mortis or whatever setting into his hands, that his body is trying to die, and he stops. And there's that excellent scene where he pulls that spike
Gives
out of
himself
the
a little
wood.
acupuncture.
Yeah, and then stabs himself through the hand. And then I guess he felt like, hey, I want to get a little loose with this. And then he got down to his little boxers in the rain. You're like, all right, Roy Batty, I get it. Like, you want to run around? If
you've been spending enough time in the gym that's what you look like when you're stripped down to your boxers, right. Yeah, of course you're going to strip down to your boxers.
Yeah, no? He's got a little G in the back, too. It's got like a little G-lean that goes in his crack. And we're like, all right, cool. But you know what? How much more scared are you? First of all, you got a Nexus 6 coming at you. But how much more scared are you when you have a naked 6 coming at you?
Well, because, it is more scary. And it's more scary because now I'm starting to wonder, when he catches me, what's he going to do?
Yeah. How much is he going to punish me?
Yeah. Where is this going? Yeah. That's what, like, if he's just going to catch me and snap my neck, I get it. That's terrible, but I can live with that, or I can die with that. But if he's going to catch me and now I'm the replacement Pris.
Like, when is the domination gonna end? Like, how far is the domination going to end? You know?
Yeah. How far is this going to go before he finally just lets me out?
Now, what do you think switches in Roy Batty where he decides to save him?
Yeah, and this I think is one of the most beautiful moments in the film, and Rutger Hauer's performance in this moment is breathtaking. You know, his great speech, which you started out doing at the very beginning, his fantastic speech, which, you know, he had a hand in that because apparently the speech that was written for that scene was really long, and Rutger Hauer just got rid of a bunch of it. Was like, I'm not going to say that much stuff. I'm going to say just these few things. And the version that he edited it down to is beautiful and moving
but all those moments that will be lost in time, like tears in the rain, that's all him. That's in the moment.
Yeah, that's his
monologue.
line in the moment. Yeah. But I love that he made that. I love, you know this. I love actors who want fewer lines, not more lines. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the reasons I liked working with you and Steven is you guys were always asking for fewer lines. You guys were always like, you gave me like 5 things. I only need 2 of these things. Those are the actors you want to work with. And I think Rutger Hauer is that guy, because they gave him this big speech and he's like, I don't need all this shit. I don't need all that. I'll just say these couple things. I have this great line for a capper at the end. That'll be it. But what it's building up to is this moment, and unfortunately, we can talk about the 3 versions, but unfortunately, the voiceover version just steps all over this and just puts too fine a point on it. But I do think the way he plays it as in that moment, he sees the end of his life and realizes how precious life was. And in that moment, he can't take one. Right? In that moment, he's like, life is precious. I'm not going to have the last thing I do in this world be taking yours. And I think it's such a and it shows, again, my theory is that this movie is about how, not how replicant-y Deckard is, but how human the replicants are. It's the most human moment in the movie is Roy saying, I know that I was built to be a murder machine. I'm a combat model. I'm a replicant who's built for combat. I'm built to kill, and I'm dangerous, and I've killed multiple people in this movie. And in this moment, in this beautiful landscape, it's the first time we see sun in the movie, right? The sun finally comes out. He's up there on the roof. The rain stops. The sun comes out. He's holding that bird, and he sees Deckard as a living thing, and he sees the beauty in a living thing, and he just doesn't want to end his life taking it, and so he saves him. And it's such a human moment. I think it's one of the most beautiful moments in the movie.
When the way that it was played by Rutger Hauer, when Harrison Ford leaps across and hangs on that thing, and he's fighting for his life and fighting, and Rutger Hauer jumps across, and he
like a ballet dancer,
Yeah,
like there's no effort at all.
Yeah, and he leans over, and he's looking at him, and he's fascinated. He's fascinated with life. He's the reason that he's fighting to survive and the struggle to live. And he sees when Harrison Ford with his broken hands are hanging there, and he's fascinated with how much he wants to live, and he knows he's about to lose his life.
Yeah.
And when he grabs him and saves him and throws him on, I agree with you. Like when he sits there and just crosses his legs with the dove, and he looks at him. And then he looks at him and ponders. You know what's crazy is I've had all these memories.
Yep.
I have all these powerful visual moments that I've seen, the life that I lived. When I die, it's all gone. Isn't that fascinating? That's fascinating about life, that when I die, my memories are gone like tears in the rain.
Yeah.
Now it's time to die. And he dies, and the dove is released. And the dove, I think, symbolizes is that
his spirit is finally free.
Yes, whatever it is within us that makes us human, he had it.
Yep.
And the fact that he was the ability to feel empathy. And so whatever it is that is a soul, or whatever it is that is inside of us that makes us human, that is what the dove represents as it goes away, that he is a human being. And as Deckard sees that, Deckard knows that he will never kill another replicant again.
Yeah.
And that he's seen profound life being lost in front of him.
Yeah, and it's so powerfully done, and it is partly the script, it's partly Ridley Scott's astonishing direction, his astonishing visual style. It's one of the most beautifully shot moments in the entire movie, with the sun finally coming out, and the dove, and the two men looking at each other, beaten and bloody because they've both been through this battle, right? And the speech that Rutger Hauer gives, the performance that he delivers in that last scene is as good as any performance I've ever seen in any movie. Like, I don't think you could take any other actor, put them in that scene, and get a better version of that scene. And that's hard to say about most things. You watch it, go, oh, it's pretty good, but I bet if Harrison Ford had been that, or if Russell Crowe had done that, he would have been better. Whatever. You watch that and you go, no, there's nobody. Nobody could have taken that scene and been like a better version of that scene than we got out of Rutger Hauer.
And what makes that moment, I believe, more special is, like, to me, is that you kind of know Rutger Hauer's career. Like, you look back in retrospect and you know what he's done, and you see some of the stuff and like the career he's had, and you're like, you look, there's a moment in time where you see him flash as bright as any actor's ever flashed, and you see how much potential he has. And in that moment, his youth, his talent, his energy, his performance are all aligned, and he's a true power. And it comes down to decisions we make and choices and things that we've done. And, he didn't have the career that this moment led us to believe, but it doesn't matter because we have this moment. We've seen his potential, how great he is. And it all came together within this movie and in this moment, and culminated to like, and the thing is like, what's really fascinating to me is that this thing came out in 1982 and nobody paid attention to it and flopped because it was too sophisticated. It was too above. We were so conditioned within that moment of like, okay, this is going to, like, what sci-fi is or what this is, but this is a profound movie that has deep philosophical existential questions, and it marinates on that. And what's interesting is the staying power of this movie. I have never been involved in a film that it gets more and more and more compelling the more I watch it. I watched it last night and I'm hanging off every moment. Whereas, it's movies that I love, if I watch it over and over and over, you kind of daydream through certain parts, whatever. You just love it. This movie is a living and breathing thing, and it grows and evolves as we grow and evolve.
And give Ridley Scott credit for every single shot is a tapestry, is a beautiful painting. And so no matter what's going on in the scene, even if you're not 100% engaged with what's happening in the scene, which I think, I am watching this movie, but probably some people aren't. It doesn't matter because the frame that you're looking at, the shot that you're looking at, always has a million interesting things in it and beautiful composition. Like you could take any frame of this movie and I would hang it on my wall. It's that beautiful.
And when Gaff shows up at this point and he says to Deckard, he said, "You've done a man's job, sir. You've done a man's job." I've taken in this viewing of him to say, this was as good as a man. You're a replicant, but this is as good as a man.
There is a saying, "You've done a man's job," is a saying, right? Like people say that to non-replicants too.
Do they really? I didn't hear that. I didn't hear through the whole movie. Like, what would be the point of him saying that? The purpose of saying
that's a saying that
job.
People say when somebody tells you you've done a man's job, they're saying, they're praising the quality of your work. Or the
all right, well, hit me with the closing argument that's going to shut down this whole thing.
So the closing argument is we start the movie with the description of this new model of replicant. The Nexus 6 is the physical new model. It's the newest one. But what Tyrell is getting ready to do is release a version of the Nexus 6 with the false memories. And Rachel is the prototype of that, right? And he goes and he tests Rachel. Roy and Leon and Pris don't have the false memories. Right? Only Rachel does. She's the prototype. So in order to believe that Deckard is a replicant, we need to believe that when these 4 replicants escaped, Tyrell built him immediately to hunt those 4 replicants down. That doesn't make any sense because he would have had to come out of the container 1 minute before this movie starts. Right? Because there's only one of these out there, and it's Rachel. And these 4 that escaped are not that version. And he is clearly, if he's a replicant, he's clearly the kind that has the false memories. Did Tyrell build him to hunt these 4 replicants for the cops 1 minute before the movie started?
No. So I have an answer to this. So that is one of the things that I bumped up against. Is like, well, wait a minute. If he's in Nexus 6, like, where is he on the timeline? And how is this? Another thing I bumped up against is if he is, how come he's getting his ass kicked? Like, where's his super strength? Where's his abilities? Where's his thing to do anything like that? But what I believe is that when you read the evolution of the story, when you read the evolution of the scripts, that there were different scripts and different shots with different people with different visions. And not only did different people have different visions, even Ridley Scott had stronger visions at different times when he felt like he was a replicant and kind of dropped hints of like saying he could possibly be a replicant. 2, when he did his final cut, he's like, no, he's a fucking replicant. And here's like, there's a definitive answer if he's a replicant
I get what he was doing. I'm saying it doesn't make any sense.
No. I know because
doesn't make any sense.
Because there's some iterations or some things in the script. Like if you sit down and I have things written down that I could find where there's a lot of things that, like the other thing you found earlier that you pointed out that didn't make sense. Oh, like the test on, so it's not flawless, right? But to me, there's more right than wrong of thinking Deckard's a replicant. And then there's more wrong than right if he's a human. Now this is just me.
I'm exactly the opposite. I think 2 things. I think it doesn't make any sense world building wise. The world building makes no sense if he's a replicant. Given what the movie tells us about replicants, doesn't make any sense. And 2, I think the message is not Deckard is a replicant. The message is replicants are humans. And I think when you push all the stuff on the Deckard is a replicant side, you steal the replicants are human theme from the movie to make that argument work. And I think the replicants are humans theme is the much more powerful philosophical theme.
So I think you just made I think that the replicants are human theme really ties along beautifully that Deckard is a replicant because of the love that he has for Rachel, because of his clinging to the memories and the relationships that he's had throughout the thing.
Let me say this. When you take the similarities between Deckard and the replicants and you use them to make the Deckard is a replicant argument, what you are taking away then is the other version where it says replicants are a lot like Deckard because they're humans. And that's the more powerful philosophical argument for me. I don't like when we're like, oh, well, Rachel and Deckard, they're both replicants and they fall in love with each other. Then that's like saying, well, they're still different from us, but they're allowed to fall in love with each other. What I like is Deckard, who is a human, discovers he can fall in love with Rachel, who is a replicant, and realizes, oh, wait, they're just people. They're just people like us. I'm not one of them. They're one of me. And I think that philosophically, that is a far more powerful argument. And I like that argument better. And I think it is less compelling. I think it's more sci-fi-y if Deckard is a replicant. And I think if people like that sci-fi idea of it, and I get it. And I'm not saying anybody who believes that is wrong. What I'm saying is, I think that is a less for me, my opinion, it is a less compelling philosophical argument to make.
So I was a Deckard is a real person for a long time. And so everything you're saying, I agree with, and it makes perfect sense. But the only difference between you and I is it doesn't take away from the power of the philosophical argument about what it means to be human if Deckard is a replicant. And the empathy that Rutger Hauer has for Deckard clinging to life at the end, to me, one way or the other, it doesn't diminish the power of Rutger Hauer discovering the beauty and the appreciation of life within the moment.
And for me, the person hunting and killing the replicants, in order to make that philosophical argument, has to be human. Because if you're having replicants hunt other replicants down and kill them, and then that replicant has a realization, that's not as compelling as you're hiring humans to hunt down replicants and kill them, and the human has a realization.
But do you think that the people in power have a history of using people that don't have power to do the worst jobs that we have to do?
Of course.
Of course
that's true.
The reason that the replicants were created is to do the shitty jobs off planet, off world, the monotonous, the terrible things. And going after Nexus 6 is a very fucking dangerous job. So I have more empathy with the powerlessness when they are sent to do the worst jobs they could possibly do. I find that if it's humans, the best of the humans going to do that, it lessens the argument for me. But we could go around and around over and over and over. It doesn't diminish it for me. It actually, it fits into place and makes it make sense. Now, let's talk about the ending. Now, the only ending that I really remember is the final cut ending. Because I know there was like a bunch, there was like 3 different iterations.
The final cut ending is just where the elevator doors close and that's it.
No, I thought the final cut ending is with the Shining footage when they're driving to...
That's the original one. That's the very first Blade Runner cut. The one that had the voiceover. So they did the first version, and the 2 big studio notes were, it's confusing. Nobody will understand. They're using a lot of terminology that's never explained. Nobody will understand what's happening with the investigation. It's too confusing. And the second note was, it's too bleak. And they insisted that he tack on a happy ending. Because the original ending was, too bad she won't live, but then again, who does? We don't know how much time we have together. Door closes, out, right? And so he tacked on the flying over the forest part as a way to show, oh, they got away and they went to a happy place and they're flying over the forest together. That got cut. When he did his director's cuts later, he cut that. And I think rightly so. For me, the best cut of the film is the middle cut. He cuts out the voiceover narration, which is terrible. Harrison Ford didn't want to do it. He did a terrible job with it.
I don't even like talking about the voiceover narration. It's terrible, and it's not worthy of this movie.
It is not worthy of the movie.
It doesn't exist.
But the first director's cut, he got rid of the voiceover narration and he cut off the flying over the forest ending. And I think for me, that's the best version.
Yeah.
Because he didn't try to add. He didn't try to go back and add a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I did think it was interesting seeing the unicorn because it tells you a couple of things. One is that Gaff was there and that he didn't kill Rachel.
Well, okay, but the little folded paper unicorn was always there. The thing that he added,
I know,
was the unicorn running through the.
So we're finishing it up, and what I'm saying is, we talked briefly about the 3 different endings,
right.
But one of the things that is there that I really like is that the unicorn, whatever interpretation you take, if he's a replicant or not a replicant, what I see is a moment of grace that Gaff has for basically. There's the one interpretation he leaves the unicorn saying that I know about your unicorn dream, which proves that you're a replicant, and I am going to let you have a moment of grace and let you go with Rachel. I know Rachel was staying there, and I'm giving you a moment of grace, and let's see how long she lives, But then again, we all die at the end of that.
I like the little guy he made out of the matchstick that has the erection. little erection matchstick man.
Fun note, Ridley Scott directed a movie called Matchstick Men with Nicolas Cage.
And Nicolas Cage spent the entire movie with an erection. Fun fact.
And Ty does every tie in that guy with an erection. Fun fact.
Yeah, I mean, you don't?
Okay, Joseph, let's answer some questions.
All right. Tying That Guy patrons would like to know, which cut is your favorite? Obviously, I think, Ty, you said middle cut.
It's my favorite.
Middle cut.
Last cut for me.
Final cut.
The final cut.
All righty. And did you know how many cuts there actually are?
I thought there was 3, but I think I'm wrong.
3, but there's probably more.
5.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
There's the work print, theatrical, international, directors, and final cut. Alrighty, now Juan asks, assuming you have read the book that inspired the movie, what is something they didn't include in the film that you would have liked to have seen?
The electric sheep. The animals in the movie, they keep them on the roof. Or I'm sorry, in the book, the animals in the book, and they're like a sign of prestige. They're a sign of like if you have a real animal, and so they'll do fake animals. And the reason that Deckard is getting the bounty for killing replicants is because he wants an animal.
He wants to buy an animal. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and the leather cod, the lead cod pieces that they use, so their dongs don't get radiation poisoning. They strap on their cods every morning. One? I have it on right now.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard. That's why the erection hurts.
You got to get a roomy one, like I've got. I went in and asked for the David Bowie model.
No,
very roomy.
Yours
very
is like
roomy.
Yours is shaped like Sting off Dune.
That's
Sting's
right.
got piece in Dune.
Wings. He's got wings.
The wings, the metal wings. Yeah. All right. What's the last one?
Alrighty. Bell asks, do you listen to movie soundtracks often? And is your typical, I feel like listening to Vangelis? What gets you in the mood for it?
Oh, I can. Let me answer first. So when I was like 19 and I would hang out with my friends and we'd watch movies and we'd read comic books and that kind of stuff. So I'd go to my friend Braun's house and he would have all the latest comics. He'd have like the latest Lone Wolf and Cub and he'd have the latest Frank Miller comic, that kind of stuff. And we'd sit there and read the comics and we would turn on the Blade Runner Vangelis soundtrack. It was the perfect background music for reading comic books. Perfect background music for that. So that's where I would do it.
Is it Vangelis?
Vangelis, yeah.
I've been calling it Vangelis for like ever.
Well, it's like GIF or GIF.
Yeah. So I love movie soundtracks, and I was having a conversation with somebody recently who has all the movie gadgets to do things to movies, and I was like, "What is the process of changing a score of a movie just for our personal glee?" And I want to take Lady Hawk. And I'll stand by fucking Lady Hawk till the day that I die. I want to take Lady Hawk and put a really great score in there. And I think, people don't appreciate how good that movie really is. Anyway,
I think that would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
I would watch the shit out of Lady Hawk with a great score.
With a great fucking score. Yeah. It's like what they did with Metropolis. Like, did you see Metropolis with the 80 score? It's fucking amazing. It's fantastic.
It's so cool.
Anyway, but this soundtrack is one of my favorites and probably the what I listen to most. And I find that like if I'm writing or if I'm like, doing something creative, it puts me in a good creative space. So the answer is yes, and I listen to this one of the most. But I love a lot of movie soundtracks that I listen to a lot. I like, weirdly, I listen to the Braveheart soundtrack a lot, the score a lot.
It's a good soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's a really good one. So. I also like the Excalibur.
Oh, Excalibur.
Soundtrack. Yeah, which has that amazing orchestral piece. I can't remember the name of the orchestral piece that is a recurring theme in that movie. It's awesome though.
Now there's a famous Star Wars character that is inspired by Excalibur, the Excalibur mask.
Who could that be? I don't know.
I don't watch Star Wars.
All right, top 5.
Alrighty, yes, our top 5 is Machines Gone Wrong. Now, I did make some changes. Okay, I don't know if you guys
better
agree with
get Maximum Overdrive and put it right back up.
I put it questionable because it's
aliens. It's not Machines Gone Wrong. It's aliens.
It's not aliens. It's machines. Aliens are using machines, but the machines are going wrong. They're not doing. They're going against their design, right? They're gone wrong.
So for me, the best Machine Gone Wrong movie of the last 20 years is definitely Ex Machina. I think Ex Machina is a brilliant movie.
Over The Matrix?
Yeah. I think The Matrix is more fun. I will watch The Matrix over and over and over again because it's so much fun. But as far as a piece of filmed literature, Ex Machina is a brilliantly written movie. It's amazing. And the performances are fantastic. That's one of my favorite evil robot movies of the.
I only saw that movie
years.
once. Maybe I need to go back and rewatch it.
Oh, it's fantastic.
My number 1 is going to be Terminator.
Terminator is of course awesome. I'm never going to argue about Terminator. Yeah,
and then I would put Matrix up there.
Yeah, and I think 2001 has got to be up on the top 5 list because 2001 with the creation of HAL. HAL is like our model for a robot or a computer going wrong. We use HAL as like a verb now. Like, oh, that thing's gonna go HAL 9000 on us.
Yeah,
right. Age of Ultron's my least favorite of the Avengers movies. Demon Seed is an interesting idea, not very well done. I love War Games. I
would throw War Games up there.
Yeah, War Games is pretty great. It's a classic for a reason. And don't get me wrong, I love me some Yul Brynner in Westworld. He's awesome.
Oh yeah, he was fantastic.
If there was an honorable mention, I would definitely have Westworld be my honorable mention. And I'm talking the awesome Yul Brynner Westworld, not the poorly plotted TV show Westworld.
They had theirs as this.
Okay.
We were right on.
I did not love Megan the way other people seem to love Megan.
I don't think I saw Megan.
They got a lot of our choices here. Ex Machina was right. They're clearly very smart. Terminator and Matrix, of course, very smart. So yeah, no. In fact, I think they perfectly line up with us, don't they?
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the is Deckard a replicant or not debate. We love you. Please like and subscribe. And thank you for helping Ty and I become podcast rock stars. We got 10s and 20s of you guys just out there just supporting the hell out of us. And we love you. God
you appreciate
damn it. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.